Well, it's pretty disturbing when you get a former head of the Australian Army, Peter Leahy, coming out and warning us that we face a 100-year war against fundamental Islam and jihadists. That means our children and our children's children are still going to be fighting this war on terror come the year 2114, which is a lot to look at. But then you understand why Peter Leahy makes those warnings when you see the front page of a newspaper like The Australian this morning, where Khaled Sharif, a convicted Australian terrorist who is now over in Syria along with his 3 young boys, one of them, he's posted a photograph of his 6-year-old holding up a severed head.
It's hard to...
What more can you say about that?
Well, that's right, because there's another photo of his other children. He's got 3 children. They're all young boys. They're over there wearing their camouflage gear. They're posing with guns. They've been raised in the suburbs of Sydney, these kids, and what Peter Leahy's talking about is radical Islam, the perverted, twisted, barbaric version of Islam that these people have grabbed hold of, and they're using it in these wars in Syria and Iraq and so many other parts of the world. And if kids that have grown up in Sydney, Australia, in the suburbs of Sydney, Australia, can be picked up and taken out and pictured holding severed heads, this is 6 and 7-year-olds, well, what about the kids that are in Gaza? What about the kids that are being raised in poor circumstances where they are surrounded by people who have been radicalised and who are feeling a sense of resentment towards the West? We've got a real problem here.
Yeah, it was Sharif, let's take his example. He was a guy who spent 3 years and 9 months in an Australian prison for his role in what was the Pendennis plot, which was the plot to basically blow up the the Lucas Heights nuclear reactor. 3 years and 9 months, that's all he's spent. During his trial, he was interviewed by psychologists and diagnosed with acute schizophrenia, possibly accentuated by the fact that he used a lot of drugs earlier in life, such as LSD and amphetamines. Now, he now claims, from his little secure little holiday post in Syria, that he never had a mental illness and that he faked it to sort of get a more lenient sentence. But today's photograph on the front page of The Australian with his 6-year-old son holding up a severed head, if that doesn't underlie his mental illness, I don't know what does.